the big thing for me is how much of last year's issues were down to the injury. That's what everyone points to. The injuries. I posted some clips last night from the end of the season on Twitter where his mechanical breakdown, and this has been a common thing with Baker dating back to his days at Oklahoma. When he gets skittish, when he feels pressured, his lower body mechanics become a complete mess. His accuracy gets really off, and he has this really weird, if you go through some of those video clips I posted, he has this like screwball foot thing he does where he like rotates his foot to generate extra torque because he likes to back away from pressure then release the ball, but he's not a natural from the arm slingshot thrower like Mahomes where he's generating velocity off platform with just his arm or with his hips. He kind of has to be in line to deliver the ball accurately, even though he doesn't really want to be. He wants to play that Manzellian style of my body can be going this way and the ball can go that way. But whenever he's played well, though he looks like that, and he looks like an off-script cool creator, whenever you watch him play well, particularly in 2020, when it was more systematized, right? It was the outside zone and boot, and it was very much about Stefanski elevating him, and he just got the ball to where it needed to be. He was a true down-the-line, linear thrower, line it all up, great mechanics, and deliver the ball. And when his mechanics fail him, he always misses high, and you see so many of those interceptions last year, he just misses high. That's his go-to thing. He cannot get the ball on the line when he's off platform. And the thing that is compromised is this is consistent. When he's pressured, that's what happens. That's not a thing where I was injured, so I'm trying to back away from the rush, right? Or I don't want to go to my left side, or I can't throw out the pocket. He struggled throwing out the pocket last season, which I think was due to not wanting to get hit with a separated shoulder. That sounds unbelievably painful, and I can understand why you wouldn't want to take shots. But the from the pocket footwork has devolved in such a way that is correctable. That's the good news, right? You can fix that. But it's not like it's a one-season thing with him. This is a pattern of behavior dating back to college. And if that's just who he is, then he will always be this high-variance Jameis-type player where you don't really want to give him $60 million a year. Can he take us to the playoffs? And you're just waiting for, a 6-week stretch of him nosediving because his footwork just goes to shit. And I don't know how much time they're going to have to correct that, and I certainly don't trust this group to do it. And lastly, I don't trust he's going to have the protection needed, as we mentioned, to be able to say, I've got a ton of time in the pocket, I can line everything up right. Remember how good that Browns line was in 2020? They were dominant. That's why he had so much time. It was so easy. Guys were wide open thanks to Stefanski. He could line everything up. When things break down, he's just not that kind of create on the fly player that I think his reputation suggests, because he's got kind of this maverick personality. That's not who he is as a player. He's Russell Wilson. That's who he is.
He really is relying on that offensive line to protect him. And if they don't protect him, he's going to be pressured too much, which is going to completely impact on his game. You're talking about those off-platform flows. I watched some of the tape of the Patriots. I think it was like a 45-7 destroying game. Like, that was brutal to watch. Like, even watching it back, they're great for highlights, but for him, it's not a consistent way to play. He needs to have a more efficient way to approach the game, to maybe reset, deliver accurate throws with a proper base. He needs to commit to improving himself. He needs to find someone to work with over the next 2 to 3 months as well, both inside and outside the facility, and try and improve. I'm sure he's been doing that over his rehab as well, but he needs to find a way to correct that quickly, because I'm not saying he'd be found out. He does have one way he can back up the Ollie. He can just hand the ball off to Christian McCaffrey, provided that Christian McCaffrey doesn't get injured.
I'm not sure that's a sure thing. The thing with the footwork too is, I wrote about this with regards to Trey Lance. Trey Lance, out of nowhere in his first start in the NFL, developed a heel click, which is just a killer in the NFL because it disrupts the whole timing of the offense. Everything in the NFL, no matter what people tell you about how the game's going, is still timing based. They expect the ball to be there, 7 yards and 1 inch off the midline. That's where the ball's supposed to be, and it's supposed to happen in 2.7 seconds. And if you break any part of that up, it don't work in the NFL, particularly in quick game and at the intermediate part of the field. Baker has always been tippy-tappy in the pocket, right? He's always had dancing feet. That's just kind of how he plays. But as you said, he used to regather himself, and it was way more efficient. And he became a more natural, long-striding Kurt Warner type guy who could, when you take those longer leaps, you are already within the settled base to deliver the ball. When you start heel clicking and they come together, you have to add extra time to regather your base. And if that's off a little, that's where he gets the accuracy issues, and he does that weird screwy spirally foot thing. I don't know how correctable that is because that's just who he's been his entire career. One thing that stands out massively, we talked about pass protection. I was going through some of the numbers this morning. This is really, really interesting. So last year, when he had 2.5 seconds or less to throw the ball, so we're in quick game and or he's pressured, right? That's what it is, or it's an RPO or something like that. He had a 0.12 EPA per play, which is just basically the value of the play for the non-nerds out there. That number, 0.12, is exactly the same as what Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, and Kyler Murray had over their entire subset of throws, right? So when he was throwing the ball quickly, bang, decision made, get the ball out, he was as good as the best players in the league, right? Those are the best players in the league. You can find me guys better than those three, right? When he had more time to throw, 2.6 seconds or more. She's got more protection, more time to throw, more decisions to make. Okay, he's got to read the coverage. Where am I going with the ball? Should I go there? Should I go there? Where will the option break? What's the leverage of the corner? When he has to think more and he has more time, his EPA per play fell to negative 0.32, which is like Zach Wilson. So he is the rare quarterback where given more time went from being unbelievable to terrible. That does not happen. That is quite literally the worst in the league over that span outside of Zach Wilson, who lives in his own little fortress of solitude of terribleness, unfortunately, at least so far. That's unbelievable. And you see it again. The Green Bay game is the best. That's where the Green Bay game is where it just completely fell apart. So it is a 1-game sample size. I'm not sure it's so fair because he was so good in 2020, but he just has never proven to be a guy who can bounce 1 to 2 to backside 3 and then rip it in. He's just a one read and go guy, and there's limits on that, you know. And if you're going to be a one read and go guy, that works when you have either McVay, Shanahan, Stefanski, and guys fly open through play design and you're just ripping the ball everywhere. When you have Ben McAdoo and Matt Rule fired Joe Brady because he said, we need to run the ball more, right? I'm not so sure that kind of instant quick game thing is going to happen. And what's funny, I think people think with Baker, it's the reverse, that he's not a great decision maker. And so if it all happens really fast, he's in trouble. It's actually the opposite. If you give this guy time to think, it's not Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott is so much better with more time. Baker Mayfield gets worse with more time.
Do you think after guys like Case Keenum come out and talk about the whole injury he had with his arm, the fact he was wearing basically a harness that season, coupled with obviously there were situations in his lower body, but do you feel like that, and quite frankly, the negative atmosphere in that locker room where the Browns literally come out and say, we want an adult, we want an adult, a quarterback, might push him this year to just go complete LeBron revamp mode and take them to town? Or what? Do you think that plays any effect, or do you think he's fundamentally got issues there with?
No, the footwork thing is obviously a real issue. As I've said, that the injury one, I give him a complete do-over. So he's got these really terrible pressure. When he's pressured, okay, his numbers in terms of accuracy and I think passer rating or QBR, one of the two numbers people use, right, to measure these things. He was lumped in last season with Justin Fields, Davis Mills, Zach Wilson, and Sam Darnold, right? Those are the 4 guys he was clustered with. As you can tell, 3 of those guys are rookies. They're all terrible under pressure. It's too fast for them, the game. Sam Darnold's terrible. He was the guy in Carolina. And the only guy worse than that group of 5 with Baker in there was Roethlisberger, who was running for his life because he was, 80 years old and didn't want to get hit anymore. And so I have to imagine the reason he was that bad, he's never been that bad under pressure at any point in his career. That has to be, it fucking hurts to get hit when you've got a separated shoulder. I just can't fathom having Myles Garrett fall on top of me. That's a bad example because he plays with him. Having Rashawn Gary fall on top of me when my shoulder is already busted and I'm fired up with whatever horse tranquilizer they've given me to force me out there. So